is the SSL proxy part. Actually, we already shared a little bit information during the HCSA course for the SSL proxy. So in the HCSP, we will give you guys deeper information for the SSL proxy, for the proxy, and offloading. So SSL proxy, first of all, we need to understand what is SSL. So SSL is the secure sockets layer, which is the protocol that developed by the Netscape for transmitting the private documents via the internet. So SSL, basically they use two keys to encrypt the data. One is the public key, so everyone knows the public key, and another is a private key, which is a separate. Another is a private, which is the secret key, only known by the recipient of the message. So that is the difference for the data that transmitted through the HTTP or through the HTTPS. So we add a security layer for the data encryption. Here is two different scenarios for the SSL. If no any proxy, so by default, the client will communicate with the server directly through the HTTPS protocol with all the data encrypted. If with the proxy function, that the firewall will enable the proxy, and it will act as both SSL server and SSL client, and to do the traffic forwarding, and decryption. So for the client side, the firewall will act as a server to reply for the request. And for the server side, the firewall will act as a client to request for the service. So we provide the SSL proxy function to decrypt the HTTPS traffic. In this case, we can have the plain text data by using this SSL proxy to adding for some additional data analysis for the decrypted data, including IPS, application identification, web authentication, URL filtering, AV, the IP reputation, the sandboxing, etc. So we are able to do the security analysis based on the decrypted data by using the SSL proxy. So SSL proxy work mode. So we have two scenarios. As I mentioned before. We have two scenarios. So one is we called SSL proxy. So the firewall will proxy all the requests from the client, from the end user. So end user, when they're trying to access to this encrypted website, using HTTPS, so the firewall, we will issue the firewall CA certificate to replace this root certificate that installed in the client web browser. In this case, the client side will communicate with our firewall through firewall certificate. And for the firewall side, we will send the request to the backend server, through the original server CA certificate. In this case, we are able to decrypt all this HTTPS traffic and do deep analysis. So this is we called proxy mode. Another mode will be the offloading mode. So in this case, firewall will work as the server. So we proxied the server service. So we install the server certificate into firewall. So all the remote users, they use the CA certificate, the root certificate of the server, and firewall also use the root certificate of the server to establish the connection through the HTTPS traffic. And then we can decrypt this HTTPS traffic into plain text and then send this through HTTP plain text to the backend server. In this case, help to save the resources of the server. So this is the server offloading. Proxy mode. So this is we already mentioned before. If firewall worked as a proxy, so we will act as the gateway of the web client. So which we need to replace the original certificate of the encrypted website with our SSL proxy certificate. So during the process, we will be the client for the end user, and we will also be we will be the server for the client. And for the server side, we will be the client. To send the request to the server. Okay, so both we act as server for the client, and we act as the end user to the web server. So the SSL proxy certificate that we used to install at the user browser will be generated using our local certificate. And we resigning this original root certificate of the website. Here is the way how to configure the SSL proxy in firewall web UI. So first of all, we need to configure to add a trusted domain. And then we need to enable the SSL proxy profile. We need to add the SSL proxy profile. For the client inspection, we use proxy. For the server inspection, we use offloading. In this case, we use proxy to proxy the access to the specific website. And after that, we need to enable the SSL proxy under policy. Also, after the trusted domain created, we need to export our CA certificate, the device CA certificate, and then install to the root certificate authorities list into the web user browser. After that, as you can see, before the proxy, the certificate will show the original issuer by the website. After that, we will replace the original certificate by using Houston CA certificate. That is for the proxy mode. Another one is the offloading mode. So this one, the firewall device will work as the gateway for the web server. So we use the original certificate of the web server to establish the SSL connection with the client, which is the web browser. and then we send the decrypted traffic in plain text to the server. Here is the configuration for the offloading mode. So first of all, you need to import the server certificate to firewall. Import the server key to firewall. And then we need to import the CA certificate and also the server certificate. Usually those certificates will be offered together by the CA. So we import the server certificate as our local certificate, and then we will take over the function of the certificate authentication from the server side. After that, we need to create a SSL proxy profile by selecting the offload mode. And this is your service port and your trust domain that you installed with the original server certificate. And then enable this SSL proxy to firewall policy. After that, we are able to offload all the encrypted traffic into plain text and then send it to the backend server.